Rev up your engines!
Now, Toyota is making an electric car. It's only going to be in Japan. It's starting in Japan, 2020, called the BEV, and it's a tiny electric vehicle. It's only 98 inches long and 51 inches wide. They see it as a commuter car that has a range of only 60 miles. But if it's a commuter car, it doesn't need that long of a range for what the Japanese are making it for. Small and electric kind of go together. Heavy, big vehicles, you got to pull the batteries, the weight of the car. They're not going to be able to go as far. But a small, compact little car, people could have it as a second car. Now, I guess they're not planning on even selling it in the United States till 2025 or something. There's where Toyota is a smart company. They test their stuff in a smaller market first. Japan's a smaller market. Toyota, Honda, they tested out their fuel-injected cars and a lot of new designs in Great Britain before they sold it in the American market. Perfected the stuff. So they didn't sell them to Americans and they broke them and they got mad. Take Tesla, for example. He's pretty much using the American public. Selling people the cars, and then they see as they fall apart and have problems, then they're trying to fix them, but they weren't perfected before he sold them. Toyota's making more sense. Perfect them, then later sell them to the American public. And perhaps their idea is best. Start with a small commuting car so the people that want them can buy them cheaper and not try to fit everything. Electric cars really aren't that good for long distance travel. So why make one for that? Start small and they get technology that can make them go further? Great. Start with the small things like Toyota is. Makes a lot more sense to me. Here's some interesting news. Mazda is bringing back the rotary engine, but it's not what you might think. In 2020, they're coming out with a new crossover that's going to be an electric / rotary engine vehicle. It's going to be a pure electric car that runs on a certain amount of electricity, and then when that runs low, it's going to kick in with the Wankel rotary engine. Now, people thought the rotary engine was dead. Well, they've got various problems of oil burning as they age. They don't get very good gas mileage, and they tend to pollute a lot more. But this is as the secondary engine when the electricity runs out. Really not a bad idea on Mazda's behalf because the rotary engines are compact. They're very small. A tiny little one, even like a 1.2 liter, puts out a lot of horsepower, puts out a lot of power. It looks like they're bringing the rotary engine back in a hybrid. BMW's got the same idea with their electric car. They use a BMW, I believe it's a motorcycle engine, in their electric car, so if it runs out of power, that kicks in and starts generating electricity with a generator. You really want an electric car that you run out of power, you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. Tesla, again. Turns out that some of the older Teslas, their screen stops working, which you might think big deal. Well, that controls a lot of stuff, and quite a few of them will not charge up then. They have a chip, and it's a big deal. Controls a lot of stuff. And it's always writing things on it. All the information is being written on it. Well, I guess the idiots didn't think about the future, that since it's writing so much, these chips have a limited lifespan. Once they get too much written on them, they stop working. And then, boom, the screen goes out, and some of them won't recharge, so then you can't drive them. This flash storage drive is called the eMMC. It has things written, then it takes it off, then it has things written, then it takes it off. But it can only do that so many cycles, and then it doesn't work anymore. So I guess Tesla didn't think of the long-term ramification of their data holding system. Now they're breaking down. Well, like I already said, don't buy new technology until it's been out a while where you find out this technology isn't working so well. A couple months ago, I had a customer just bought a Tesla Model S, and the sticker price, the original guy paid $124,000. He bought it for $45,000 with only 15,000 miles on it. That is horrendous resale value. And I think as time goes on, it'll probably continue along that way when people find out that there's problems, there aren't any people around to fix them correctly. They just took technology a little bit further than they should have to sell to the public until the stuff was tried and true. So beware if you're driving one of those. Don't be surprised if your dash just goes out and it won't charge anymore. Sunspare Gamer says Scotty is a 2004 Infiniti i35 for $4,500 with 55,000 miles. A good buy. I don't advise buying the fancy Infinitis when they're old and have a lot of mileage. It's old, it's 16 years old, but it's only got 55,000 miles. You can find out that that mileage is real, sure, for $4,500 and 55,000 miles. Generally, those things don't fall apart till you get 100, 120, 130,000 miles. And if you can buy it for $4,500 and get 45,000 miles of pretty much trouble-free driving out of it, Why not? Pay a mechanic to check it out, because people lie, cheat, and steal when they sell used vehicles. Could have been wrecked, flooded, stolen. You want to get all that checked out. Proof can be shown that that's the real mileage? Sure, it could be a fun car for that small price. Kikabrowski says, "Hi, Scotty, I'm looking at a 1977 Chevy C10, newly rebuilt tranny, 4,000 miles. No sign of rust, looks great. What else should I look for before I buy it? And would you recommend this being a daily driver?" Something that old. The only way you can make it a daily driver is if you go through it completely and rebuild the whole thing, because it is so old. All the rubber seals are going to be leaking, the rubber parts, brake hoses, you name it. You're going to have to replace all that stuff to make it a daily driver. And you said the transmission was rebuilt. What if it's still the original equipment engine? It's going to have a lot of miles on it. Those are vehicles that actually make very good project vehicles. If you can get it cheap, you didn't mention the price, you want to rebuild it as a project vehicle. If you want to go through it entirely, put another engine in, all that stuff, remove all the rotten parts and put new ones in. But before you do that, you want to check it for rust thoroughly, because those 77s were notorious rust buckets. You want to look closely and get a hammer and hit all the metal parts. Make sure there isn't Bondo under there. And like I had in a video I made a few months ago, thickness gauge the Russians sent me. Have somebody run that around. You might find there is a bunch of Bondo where the paint's real thick because it's been rusted and painted over. Because it's a rarity to find one of those that isn't a rust bucket. Now, if you're buying it from Arizona or New Mexico, sure, they don't rust there because it's so dry. That would be totally logical. But anywhere else, you want to really check for rust closely. Jerome961 says, "Hey, I got a 2010 Chrysler Town & Country 3.6. Car was running fine, but the next morning it cranked, it started stalling out, and then it won't start anymore." All right, there's tons of things that can knock out an engine when it's running okay, and then you start it up and it starts running poor and dies. But in that Chrysler Town & Country, the number one killer on those like that are the fuel pumps going out. They're inside the gas tank and they burn out after a certain period of time. And what'll happen is they'll run perfectly fine. Now, when they short out, they stop. So when he restarted it in the morning, if the pump was starting to go out, it would run like crap because the pressure's too low. And then if the pump completely stopped pumping, it wouldn't start at all. Do if I were you would be just pop the air filter off, spray a little starting fluid. If it starts and then dies, odds are the fuel pump went out. Now, unfortunately, it's a Chrysler Town & Country van, one of the worst vans ever made in the history of mankind. There's about 50 things that could do that. And I've seen them all do it on one or the other. But pray it's as simple as just the fuel pump needs replacing. Because I see that a lot on those. When they're 9 years old like that, the pumps often crap out. The Rolla asks, "Scotty, I'm planning on buying a new Ford EcoSport 1.0 turbocharged engine. What do you think about EcoSport?" Okay, it's fascinating technology. They've got turbochargers. They've got gasoline direct injection, and that's a tiny engine, 1 liter. For that size engine, it puts out a tremendous amount of horsepower. But to get that horsepower, you're using high pressure injectors. You're using turbocharging. Those things don't last as long. That's just the way that it goes. Now, if you're the type of person that wants a little zippy vehicle and you change the oil a lot and take care of it, and you don't expect to get more than, say, 100,000 miles out of a vehicle before you buy another one, go ahead. You can have good luck with it. If you're a cheapskate like me and you want to buy a car that's going to last 200,000-300,000 miles, do not buy that car because they will not last that long. They're small engines, they got a lot of pressure in them, and they will wear out faster. The history of the older ones that were small engines that were turbocharged as GDI, they wear out faster because there's more strain in the engine. If you're the type of person that wants to get a small car, it's going to last a long time, buy one that is not turbocharged. Buy one that is not GDI. That all wears out faster. It's such high technology. When they do break, they're very expensive to fix because a lot of guys don't know how to work on them, and a lot of the parts are dealer only, so you're going to get paying through the nose. Joe Collins says, "I'd like to get your opinion on the statement Isuzu made about their 3-liter diesel engine. When asked why they produce only 177 horsepower, they say it was purposely tweaked to reduce stress and make the engine last longer. Is this nonsense or not?" Actually, it's not nonsense. And I think Isuzu made a good move there. The more stress you put on an engine, especially a diesel engine, it's got tons of pressure, faster it's going to wear out. So you get more horsepower out of a smaller engine, it's going to wear out faster. It's just fact. More pressure, more friction. You see all those little tow trucks with the beds on the back. Those are all Isuzu engines in them. And those are great engines. If you keep oiling them and don't overheat them, they can last forever. Not the most power things on the planet, but a lot of people, they're buying a diesel. You're not buying that diesel engine for racing. You're buying that diesel engine because you want something that holds up over time, doesn't break down, and has a lot of torque for pulling stuff. So kudos to Isuzu. Now, I'm not an Isuzu car fan. They stopped selling them in the United States a long time ago. They had such a bad reputation. They've always made good diesel engines, and I think it's a smart move doing that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.